Hello, and welcome to the 2024-2025 Step-by-Step FAFSA tutorial. This tutorial is put together by Champions for Learning. Champions for Learning has a mission to serve as a catalyst for educational success by investing in Collier students and educators. Champions for Learning is a partner in Future Ready Collier, which is a network of more than 60 organizations, businesses, schools, and community members working to ensure every child is ready for kindergarten and every young person enters adulthood with a vision and a plan to accomplish that vision. Future Ready Collier is the Collier partner supporting the 5-county Future Makers Coalition, with a goal to transform Southwest Florida's workforce by increasing the number of college degrees, certificates, or other high-quality credentials from 27% to 55% by 2025. FAFSA completion is considered the #1 indicator of college going and provides access to a range of financial support to students. Champions for Learning partners with Collier County Public Schools and other partners to leverage resources to support students and their families to complete the FAFSA. We play a lead role in providing resources, training volunteers, and facilitating FAFSA completion events. These screenshots were prepared by Champions for Learning and are provided by Federal Student Aid and Office of the U.S. Department of Education. They are based on a fictional student-family situation and are intended to be used for training purposes. To learn more about Champions for Learning, visit us at championsforlearning.org. And I'm Jessica Manchette. If you have questions, here's my contact information. You're welcome to email or call me directly at Champions for Learning. We're happy to assist. Now let's begin looking at the 24-25 FAFSA. Before we begin and jump into actually filling out the FAFSA, it's important for a student to understand which parent or parents they're going to need to use when filling out the FAFSA. Those parents are considered or called a contributor when you complete the FAFSA. You may want to pause now the video so that you can follow this flowchart to determine which parent or parents will be the contributor when you complete your FAFSA. Keep in mind, if this is your first time filling out the FAFSA, both you and the parents that are going to be contributors on your FAFSA will need an FSA ID. That's the username and password that you'll electronically set up to be able to digitally sign and submit your FAFSA. There's separate instruction videos available to help you complete that FSA ID. It is imperative that you set up your FSA ID username and passwords for both the students and the parents 3 to 5 days before trying to complete your FAFSA, as your FSA ID username and password has to process and be activated. Okay, let's proceed. To begin, we're going to walk through slides, and as we said earlier, these are demonstration-only slides, a fictional situation for a high school senior graduating in 2024 who's filling out the FAFSA for the very first time. So the answers that you're selecting on your individual FAFSA may vary from the answers that you see here. You're going to want to start by going to studentaid.gov/FAFSA, FAFSA. Make sure you type that up in your browser at the top. You can use any web browser that you feel comfortable with. And once you go to that site, you're going to see this image asking for the email, phone number, FSA username to log in, as well as the password. Now, this is the student that's going to be logging in here. Once the student logs in, you're going to see this sign or this page, which has a lot of information that walks you through different deadlines, possibly state deadlines, for applying for other scholarships, if you needed to go back and make a correction to your FAFSA, different deadlines. So a lot of information on this page. You may be coming back to this after you've completed your FAFSA for additional information. In this case, though, we're going to be filling out the FAFSA for the first time. So we're going to select the large blue button at the top left of the page that says Start New Form. Now, if we weren't able to finish in one time, in one sitting, we may have to come back and hit edit existing form, or that start was changed to a continue editing form. And now we're going to tell the FAFSA that this is the student that's completing the form. When you are navigating through the FAFSA, it's very important that you do not use your browser's forward button or backward button. You want to use the directional keys at the bottom, that continue or previous. If you need to go back and reread something or advance to the next page, use the continue or previous buttons. The next four pages on the FAFSA give you an overview of what the FAFSA is going to be used for, how you're going to complete the FAFSA, who's going to assist you with completing the FAFSA. If you wanted to walk through, you could walk through and watch these videos, read the slides. We're going to advance through. So this is page number 2, where it talks about identifying which parent you're going to be using, and that you're going to be inviting that parent to be a contributor to your FAFSA. Okay, just sets up a little expectation that it may take as long as an hour to complete the FAFSA. And then what's going to happen after you complete the FAFSA. So once we hit submit, the form's going to be processed in about 1 to 3 business days. You're going to receive a summary, and the schools are going to use your student aid index to create your financial aid offer that they would offer you based on the schools that you've applied and been accepted to. Now, keep in mind, when you're completing your FAFSA, you do not have to have a college acceptance. In fact, you don't even have to have submitted your application yet. The FAFSA is just one of those steps of the process, but there's not an order of operations that you need to complete the FAFSA before or after submitting that application. Just keep in mind that the school will not be able to offer you any type of financial aid until you have completed your FAFSA successfully. Now let's hit start the FAFSA form and begin. You'll notice on this screen, all of the information at the top is pre-filled. That's the information that was provided when this student set up their FSA ID username and password. So if any of the information you're seeing here doesn't look correct, you're going to want to pause and go back and update your FSA ID. Keep in mind that permanent mailing address at the bottom of the screen should be the student's permanent residential mailing address. This should not be temporary housing or where they're planning on going to school. Okay, now we're going to answer and let the FAFSA know what is the student's state of legal residence and when did they become a legal resident. Now, this explains that we are going to be providing consent to be eligible or ineligible for student aid. That consent is where the parent's information is going to be pulled into the FAFSA. It used to be that your parents had to use a data retrieval tool or type in tax information. Little bit different this year. So the taxes are going to be automatically imported on the back end once the parent provides that consent. Okay, now it's going to ask the student to answer some questions about their own circumstance to determine the next pieces. Keep in mind again that every question may be different based on how you answer the prior question. So if you don't see one of these questions, don't panic. Your individual situation is your individual situation. Now we need to answer, what is this current marital status of the student? And what are the college or career plans for that student? So keep in mind here, we're answering when the student begins the 24-25 school year, what will their college grade level be? This is really important if you're a high school student. Even though you may have dual enrollment credits or AP credits, maybe enough which make you a second year or maybe even a junior if you've already completed your associate's degree. But when you begin the 24-25 school year, your grade in college will be a first year freshman because you are incoming. It's the first time you've actually truly matriculated into a college. Those credits that you may have earned through dual enrollment or AP were done through your high school. So it's important that you make sure you enter your first year here. And then the second question, when you begin the 24-25 school year, will you have your first bachelor's degree? That's the 4-year degree. So high school seniors would not yet have that degree. Now you're going to want to read through each one of these personal circumstances and check the radio button if any of them apply to you. If none of these options apply to you, make sure you select none of the above at the very bottom of the page and then select continue. On the next page, it asks, at any time on or after July 1st of 2023, so we're going back in time a little bit, was the student unaccompanied and either homeless or self-supporting and at risk of being homeless? This is a yes or no question. I'm going to show you what happens if we answer yes or if we answer no. Okay. So if we were to answer yes, then it's going to ask, did any of the following people determine that the student was homeless or at risk of being homeless? This could be someone from an emergency shelter, a high school or district liaison, someone from a federal program such as TRIO or Gear Up, a financial aid administrator, or none of these. So this would be who issued the student that homeless or at risk of being homeless certificate. If you don't yet have a certificate, but you're in a situation where your housing situation has changed, you may want to pause here and speak with your school district or your district's liaison first to determine if this is something that needs to be issued before you continue and proceed completing the FAFSA. This is very important that you're answering these questions correctly because based on how you answer this, this not only will assist you on the FAFSA, but could provide you additional support as you transition into college with respect to medical and food assistance. Okay. Then it's going to ask on the next page if the student had any additional unusual circumstances. So read through each one of those, take a moment, and answer if any of those are applicable to the student. Okay, now based on how we answered those questions, it's stating that we need to provide parent information. So we're considered a dependent student. Keep in mind, and for FAFSA, for federal aid purposes, a student in most common situation is going to be considered dependent until the age of 24. Many people assume it's 18, it's actually 24 years of age. So unless you are met one of those other qualifying situations that we saw earlier in the questions, you're going to be considered dependent and need your parents to help you complete the FAFSA until you are 24. Now for this next question, you want to make sure you're reading this correctly. So it asks, are the student's parents unwilling to provide information, but the student doesn't have an unusual circumstance? So if the student's parents are willing, then we would answer no. If the parents are unwilling, then we would say yes, they're unwilling to provide information, which would mean that the student would only be eligible for an unsubsidized loan. They would not be eligible for any other types of federal student aid. So important to make sure you're answering that question correctly before proceeding. Okay, now it's going to ask questions about the student's parents. If you remember that flow chart that we showed back at the beginning of the slides, this is what's going to walk us through. But again, we wanted to make sure we had that FSA ID username and password established before we started the FAFSA. So as of today, are the parents married to each other? Yes or no, and continue. Then on the FAFSA form, the parent is so for the FAFSA form, the parent is the student's legal, biological, or adoptive parent. Are the parents married to each other? Yes or no? And do the parents live together? Yes or no? Then based on, you may or may not see these next questions. In this situation, we answered that the parents are not married. So it asks us, did one parent provide more financial support than the other parent over the last 12 months? If both parents provided an exact equal amount of financial support, or if they don't support the student financially, select no and refer to the parent with the greater income or assets in the next question. Is the directions there on the FAFSA. Then it asks, has the parent you identified in the previous question remarried, yes or no? So based upon how we answered those questions, it's now going to ask us to send an invitation to the parent that will need to be considered the contributor for the FAFSA. Keep in mind, if you have older siblings or maybe even your own parents that have completed the FAFSA in the past, the question about which parent you should be using on the FAFSA has changed this year. So as you noticed on the previous screens, it was asking which parent was financially contributing versus in the past, it used to ask which parent, what did the student live with 51% of the time or more. So there is a shift in the question. So if you have older siblings, they might now be using a different parent than they have used in the past on the FAFSA. It's now time to invite the parent to complete their portion of your FAFSA. So based on how we've identified which parent on the prior pages, we're going to enter their information, including the Social Security number, and send an invitation. If your parents do not have a Social Security number, that's okay. They can still assist you. You would just select that radio button that says, "My parent doesn't have a Social Security number." The great news is this year you will still be able to completely uh, complete your FAFSA digitally and sign and submit everything without having to use paper phones. So this is paper forms. So this is a great enhancement to the FAFSA that everything can be done online, whether your parent has a Social Security number or not. Once you complete this information, you're going to hit that send invite. And you'll notice that the invitation has been marked as sent to the parent. Okay, now we're going to continue with some student questions. This is just demographic information. This is not used for purposes that will impact your federal student aid eligibility. If you don't feel comfortable answering any of these questions, you are welcome to select prefer not to answer at the bottom. So this is the first question. Then it's going to ask the student's race or ethnicity. Again, at the bottom, you're welcome to select prefer not to answer. Now we go into citizenship status. Now this does have to be answered because this is a point of eligibility. You'll need to mark if you're a US citizen, an eligible non-citizen, or neither a citizen or eligible non-citizen. Again, this is the student's citizenship status. Okay, once you've selected that answer, select continue. And now it's going to ask, did either of the student's parents attend college or complete college? If you're not sure, you're welcome to select the don't know option and continue. And then it's going to ask, was the student's parent or guardian killed in the line of duty while serving on active duty as a member of the armed forces on or after the events of 9/11? Or by performing official duties as a public safety officer, which includes law enforcement officers, firefighters, and emergency service workers. Okay. Now it's going to ask what's the student's high school completion status. So what will the student's high school completion status be at the beginning of the 24-25 school year? If you're a high school senior, you're most likely going to be graduating with that high school diploma. And now it's going to ask you to enter the high school that you're going to or did graduate from. So put the state, the city, and then the name of the high school and select the search button. It's going to identify that school and confirm that they have it marked correctly. And once we hit continue, that's then going to ask us to answer some questions about the student's financial situation. Now, keep in mind, again, this is the student's information. If the student didn't file taxes, this may not apply. There may not be an IRA rollover or a pension rollover. Most high school seniors wouldn't have that kind of investments attached to them at this point. It's also going to ask the amount of college grants or scholarship reported as income to the IRS. If you're a high school senior, you wouldn't have that yet. Now, in subsequent years, you very well may have that, and the school will provide you a tax document at the end of every year. So even if you don't file your own taxes, maybe your parents claim you can provide that form to them to help them when they're completing their own taxes. So in most cases for our high school seniors, this page is most likely going to be all zeros. Again, it's going to ask on the next page 3 questions about the student's assets. So as of today, what is the total value of their cash savings and checking accounts? What is the net worth of their investments, including real estate? This does not include the home that the student lives in. And if there's a net worth of any businesses and investment firms. Again, this is all the students' information. Okay. As we proceed, it's now going to ask where the FAFSA should send your information. So you can select now up to 20 colleges or technical colleges to have your FAFSA sent to. There's 2 ways to do this. You can either search by the school name by putting in the state, the city, or the school name and selecting search. Or if you have the school code, you can select the second tab that says search by school code and search by that school code and add up to 20 institutions for your FAFSA to be sent to. As you select all of your FAFSA, the schools for the FAFSA to be sent to, it will then give you an overview showing you which schools you have selected. Keep in mind, other institutions, so the schools that you select, cannot see the other schools that you have chosen to send your FAFSA to, nor can they see the order of the schools that you have listed them in. If you are a student in Florida, we highly recommend that you do list a Florida public institution as the first school on the FAFSA. This is to help ensure that you maintain your eligibility for any state aid. Again, not federal aid, but state aid. This just helps to ensure that your school processing the FAFSA can see what aid you're eligible for at a state level. But the schools, again, cannot see your list or order of which schools you have selected. You're also welcome to come back after you've submitted the FAFSA. If you need to add additional schools or remove schools, you're welcome to do that. The only reason to really remove schools, though, would be if you maxed out at 20 and then decided maybe you were going to apply to 25 schools. And so you needed to change and remove some to add additional because 20 is the maximum that you can have on the list. Now, once we've added those schools, you'll notice it's going to give us an overview of the student's information that has been submitted. So it gives us green check boxes letting us know that we have completed those sections. We could also hit those little blue down arrows and expand that section to make sure we have answered those questions correctly. But you'll notice at the bottom we're missing the signature green check because we haven't signed the FAFSA yet as the student. And then secondly, that the section with the contributors, even though the invitation has been sent, it has not yet been completed by the parent. So our FAFSA is not completely ready to go. Now it will let the student go ahead and sign and complete their section. And once we've done that, it'll let us know that the student section is complete. However, we're still waiting for the parent's signature piece to be completed. I'll show you what that invitation to a parent looks like in just a moment, but just want to remind you, so if your parent for some reason did not get the email or lost the email, you can come back into the FAFSA and select this Manage Contributor Information and either change the email or resend the invitation. It's very important to note that we've been told by FAFSA that you have 30 days from when the student starts the FAFSA for the parent to complete their section. Otherwise, the student's information will not be saved. Now, we know the information being sent to the parent says 45, but we're being told that it's 30 days. So make sure you've got that completed within that 30-day time frame. This is what the email that the parent received looks like. So the parent gets information that the student's FAFSA cannot be processed unless they have your information and your assistance as a parent. So it'll give you the button at the bottom to log in. And now you'll see this page looks very similar to what the student logged in when they began the FAFSA, but this is going to be the parent logging in using their FSA ID username and password. It's then going to say that the student has invited you to be a contributor on their FAFSA, and the parent would click Accept Invitation. Again, just like when we logged in as the student, it's going to have the parent review their information to make sure that all of the information that we entered onto the FSA ID username and password was correct. Okay, now very similar questions to what we saw on the student section, but again, this is for the parent. So what is the parent's current marital status? What is the state of legal residence? And this is a different question. This one did not appear on the student section. Very important that you take a few moments and read through all of the options on this page. So it's asking at any time during 2022 or 2023, did the parent or anyone in their family receive benefits from the following federal program? Earned income tax credit, federal housing assistance, free or reduced price school lunch. Again, anyone in the family. Medicaid, a refundable credit for coverage under a qualified health plan, supplemental nutrition assistance programs, supplemental security income. So please take a moment, read those, and select all that apply to the family. Now it's asking if the number of individuals on the 2022 parents' tax return is different than the number of people now living in their house that the parents will be supporting between July 1st of 24 and June 30th of 25. This could include dependent children that are not physically living in the house because they're already away at college. So if that, or it could include perhaps there's a new child that was born into the family or adopted into the family in the last year, but hasn't yet been claimed on taxes. So take a moment and verify that the number of people on the 2022 taxes is the same number of people that are in the household today. And answer yes or no and continue. Now, based upon the people that were considered in the household, how many of the people in the household will be in college between July 1st of 2024 and June 30th of 2025? It's important you do not include the parents here. So this number should be at least one for the student that is completing the FAFSA, but it could be higher if there are additional siblings or people that the parents are supporting that are living in the household that are going to be in college within the next year. And then select continue. Just like we saw on the students' information, some additional question now about the parents' assets or information from their tax return. Keep in mind again, some of these questions not every student will see based or every parent would see based upon how they have answered the prior questions. It also asks potentially if the parents received any child support, the total of their cash savings and checkings accounts, the net worth of their investments, including real estate. Again, this does not include the home in which the parent lives in. And we now have that overview screen again, showing us that we have successfully completed the 3 sections as the parent, but we have a gray button next to the signature, which means that we need to sign that form. So it's going to give us an overview, letting us know that we are agreeing or telling us, asking us if we agree that everything we're putting on here is true and complete to the best of our knowledge. We would read through this and at the bottom, select agree if we agree and submit. And it'll now say, congratulations, the FAFSA form is complete for the student. So because the parent has now completed their section, the student section has now been submitted and the FAFSA is considered fully complete for the student. So what happens next? The confirmation will be sent to the email that the FAFSA has been successfully submitted. In 1 to 3 business days, the student will receive a notification by email that it was processed and sent to the schools that the student listed on the FAFSA. Also, the student will receive additional communication from FAFSA regarding their student aid index, their SAI, which is what lets schools determine how much financial aid the student is eligible to receive. Now, I'm going to take a moment and show you what the FAFSA submission summary will look like for the student. So once that FAFSA has processed, the student's going to get a summary screen that looks like this. There's a couple pieces of information that you may find helpful. So first, you'll notice this estimated federal student aid overview. The first piece is the federal Pell Grant. So in this case, the student is potentially eligible for up to $4,556 in a federal Pell Grant. Federal Pell Grants are grant money. This does not have to be repaid. So in this case, this student in her very first year would have $4,556 from a federal Pell Grant. She would also be eligible to borrow a federal direct loan, which is listed there as well. Keep in mind, this does not include other scholarship money or grants at the state level. Your individual schools will send you those offers in your financial aid award letter once you have been accepted to that school and they have processed your financial aid uh, award letter, which would be sent to you potentially either by an email or in your portal. So very important that you're keeping an eye on those two pieces of information. As you scroll down to the bottom of that page, you'll notice it says there's a federal work study program. So some schools, if you have a cost of attendance that is higher than the amount that they can provide to you, you may be eligible to join the federal work study program. This is a way for students to earn money to pay for school through part-time jobs that are offered on or off the campus. So that's something that the student would have to apply for separately, but would be noted on the student's financial aid award letter from the school. And then at the very bottom of the form is the Student Aid Index, or SAI. This number is going to be used by your school to determine your federal eligibility to build your financial aid offer. There may be other organizations or private scholarships that you're applying for that ask for this number. So very important that you're familiar with what your number means. And it's okay if it's negative. Some students may see a negative number as high as 1,500. That doesn't mean that you did anything wrong on your FAFSA, but your school will help and use this information to determine your award letter. There's also on the next tab, the FAFSA form answers. So maybe the student is concerned that they might have made an error when completing their FAFSA. You could select FAFSA form answers, expand any of those sections, and then select the Make Correction button and go through and edit and resubmit any error that needs to be corrected. Or maybe you need to go back and change the schools that the FAFSA was sent to. You could do that very easily from this screen as well. So the submission summary, as you notice, has quite a bit of information that's contained on it. It's something that you're going to come back to and use even after your FAFSA has processed and or has been submitted and processed. And keep in mind, after this year, we do anticipate that the FAFSA will return to a standard opening date each year of October 1st. So keep in mind every year as you're going back through and filling the FAFSA out, this is the same place. The instructions might change a little bit, but we'll provide you updated information each subsequent year. Thank you for joining us for our 2024-25 FAFSA step-by-step tutorial. Again, my name is Jessica Manchette with Champions for Learning. Our contact information is on the screen now, but again, you can learn more by visiting championsforlearning.org. Thank you.